Welcome to a Holy Week Hill Walk. Gabe and I at Ruck the Way want to invite you this week to take some time to get outside, to go for a walk. And in doing so, reflect with us on what this week means, what it means in your own personal history, but what it means in the history of the world as Jesus set his face toward Jerusalem and moved towards crucifixion and then resurrection. So we want to invite you this week to use your body, get outside. You don't have to actually go up a hill, but we want to encourage you to find a space where you can go and even use this podcast as a guide to help you think through where you are in life and where you'd like to be. How do you deal with this story of Jesus and what he has come to do and to be? Who is he to you? So you don't have to actually find a hill. Maybe there's a good trail in the woods nearby, or even just in your neighborhood. But we encourage you to get out and actually use your body. What Jesus did, he didn't do metaphorically. He actually walked all the way towards Jerusalem, and then everything he experienced was in his body. So use your body this week. Find a hill, find a trail, and go walk it. The hill I'm going to actually climb today is behind me. And you probably can see I'm on a busy road here in East Lothian. The hill behind me is called Traprain Law. And it's a very interesting hill. It's connected in history to the founding of both Edinburgh and Glasgow. Now, I won't go into all the history, but it is a hill that is steeped in mythology, it is steeped in history, and it's an important hill for me. So this is the hill that I'm going to climb. I invite you to join me as we go on a Holy Week hill walk together. Holy Week isn't meant to be rushed. So today, I'm not rushing up the hill. I'm walking it. And I encourage you to walk too. Take your time. Go slowly. Slow down and listen to what's going on inside of you as you're feeling what's happening in your body as you're taking a walk. I'm away from the busy roads here at Traprain Law. So what I hear mostly is the sound of birds. I can hear an occasional passing car, but it's a place where I can be quiet. So I invite you to find a place where you can be quiet. Maybe you put in earbuds and you're listening to this podcast or you're listening to music, but take some time to drown out the noise of normal life and walk slowly and intentionally with me. We all carry burdens. We all have things in our life and in our stories that weigh us down. It's kind of the metaphor that we've used at Ruck the Way to say, what is the weight that you're carrying in your rucksack? So as you begin your walk this week, find something that can represent the weight that you're carrying. Find a rock. Find something that'll be heavy. Maybe it's a rucking weight that you put into your rucksack. And feel that weight as you go up your hill or go on your walk. Now, I'll admit, I am carrying some extra weight from the holiday period and from the winter. So I'm going to be feeling that as I go up the hill today. But I also am going to find a rock that will represent some of the spiritual weight that I feel like I'm carrying in this season. So I'm going to look for that rock right now. I think I found my stone. I like the idea of actually taking a stone that's been part of a wall. So I'm going to grab this one right here. And I'll see if I can return it to the same space when I'm done. But for me, a stone in a wall represents places in my life that are established here in midlife, where I just kind of feel like there's something that's loose, something that's heavy, something that's weighing me down. So this is the rock that I'm going to put into my rucksack as I climb Traprain Law today. Got a choice here. There's a path that is on the right that is a bit easier. The ascent is not as steep at the beginning, But I think I'm going to try the one that goes straight up. It feels appropriate. And as I begin this walk, I'm reflecting on Jesus and his movement towards Jerusalem. I can't even imagine what that must have been like for him to approach the holy city on those days before Palm Sunday and to realize what was going to happen, because he was very aware what he must have been carrying, even in his body, the stress, the dread, the anticipation, and also the strength to say yes to the invitation that he was being offered, knowing what it would take, knowing that, that invitation was one to suffering and to death. And even if he was aware that resurrection was on the other side, it wasn't an easy skip over. The cross had to come first. What was he feeling as he made that final ascent into Jerusalem right before Palm Sunday? There's something honest about a hill. I'm breathing hard right now. It's honest because you can't fake it. The hill demands what the hill demands. And as I'm walking up, I'm feeling the weight, the extra weight in my rucksack from the rock that I chose. I'm also feeling the extra weight that I've put on over the last 6 months. And here's the thing about weight. Whether it's physical weight or spiritual weight, we don't like it. We want to get rid of it. We want to outsource it. We don't want to feel it. And I'm just reflecting on the weight that Jesus must have been feeling as he ascended to Jerusalem, and then the terrific weight of carrying the cross. The weight that we carry, when I think about it that way, is nothing in comparison to the weight he carried on that day. So as I'm continuing to climb, I'm thinking about that whole idea of weight and how obedience has a weight. Forgiveness has weight. I'm just wondering, what is the obedience that you may be resisting this week because it feels just too heavy to bear? Again, I've got a choice to make. There's a path here on the right that is a little more windy, indirect. And there's a path on the left that is certainly more direct, but straight up. I think I'm actually going to choose the path on the right. Not because it's easier, but because it gives me more time to reflect. So as you're walking, think about your choices. Think about the choices that you're making this week and in your life right now. Are you choosing the easier path? And is the easier path truly easy? Or does it give you more time to reflect on what's most important? Are there regrets about not choosing the hard path? Is it too late? Should you backtrack, turn around, and take the more difficult way? I'm about halfway from the top at this point. So I just want to pause and reflect and take a look at the landscape. You can see in the distance the water under the haze, the Firth of Forth. The little hill there that you see is called Traprain Law. Far in the distance, there is a rock in the middle of the sea called Bass Rock. It's good to gain perspective sometimes. It's also good to pause and in between moments to help set expectations, to reevaluate, and to see where you are and where you've come from. Perspective changes when you climb. I'm just thinking about the perspective and the expectations in Holy Week. When Jesus came into the city on Palm Sunday, the crowds were shouting Hosanna. They were laying down their cloaks. They were throwing down palm branches. They were saying, "Hail to the Son of David." And everything seemed to be going in a positive direction. The expectation is that Jesus was going to come as a conquering hero, the Messiah who was going to deal with the issues that the people of Jerusalem had in their day, which was the Roman oppression. But as Holy Week progressed, those expectations were quickly dashed. Because Jesus didn't come as a conquering king riding in to defeat the Romans. He came in humble, riding on a donkey. And what he did during that week actually upended all of the expectations of the people. Yet he knew his purpose. He knew which direction he was heading in. What direction are you heading in? Do you know your purpose? What have you been called to do and to be in this season? Holy Week dismantles our expectations. We want a victory without surrender. We want strength without sacrifice. But the way of Christ always moves through a cross. Where do you have expectations of Jesus that need to be reshaped? One of my expectations on this hike and a hope is actually to see the wild ponies that live here on Traprain Law. As you can see, there's evidence that they've been here. And if you look down at the trail, you'll see that their prints are everywhere. Now, these ponies are wild. They're cared for by the people who actually maintain this land. So they are shoed and they are given water, but otherwise they forage wild on the hill. So I'm hoping to see them today. And that expectation is one that I hold lightly. But when I do see them, and when I've seen them in the past, there's this sense that I'm connected to something wild, something uncontrollable. And I think about them in connection to Jesus, the expectations that he was going to be a controllable Messiah who was going to do what the people wanted. But he wasn't. There was a wildness in Jesus. So I'm asking myself the question, where has wildness been killed in me? How have I been domesticated by the cares of my life? And how am I carrying that sense of dull domestication into Holy Week as I head towards Easter? How about you? Where has the wildness of your heart been tamed in a way that isn't good for you or for the ones that you love or for the world? This is the steepest part. My breathing's getting heavy. I'm just thinking about Jesus moving through that week, coming to what we call Maundy Thursday, the night of the Last Supper, and what that was like for Jesus to sit at that table with the men that he'd walked with for the last 3 years, and what must have been going through his heart and his mind as he broke that bread, as he gave them the wine, knowing that what he was displaying for them on their behalf was that his body was going to be broken and his blood was going to be spilt. It's worth the climb. I'm right before the summit of the hill. I'm catching my breath. I'm thinking about the disciples and what they must have felt during that Holy Week. Because I've actually climbed this hill several times before. I know what's at the top. I know what's beyond the summit. But they didn't know what was coming. They had assumptions too. Expectations about Jesus, their rabbi, and about what he would be and what he would do. Most of the disciples didn't really get it. They had the expectation that Jesus would be like that conquering Messiah, or they just didn't understand him at all. But they couldn't see. They couldn't see beyond Friday. On Saturday, they couldn't see beyond their grief and the fact that Jesus had been laid in a tomb. I can imagine they were just saying, how is this possible? How is this man that we put our hopes, our dreams in, that we followed closely for 3 years, how is he dead? How has it come to this? As we read the gospel accounts of what they did in that time, they ran in fear. And even Peter, who was bold enough to go into the courtyards of the high priest on the night of the Last Supper, after Jesus was arrested in the garden, he was afraid too. And when he was asked 3 times about who he was, his true identity as a follower of Jesus, he denied it. So it's hard. It's hard not knowing what's at the top of the hill. It's hard not having the insight of Sunday and of resurrection. And I'm wondering for you and for me, where are we sitting in places where we just can't see the direction that we want to go? We just can't see over the summit of the next hill. And we have no way of knowing or controlling what comes next. What's being asked of us in that moment in terms of our own faith? Believing that there is a God that sees us, that fashioned the hills, that knows the summits, and will carry us over those. I'm coming at last to the top of Traprain Law, where there is a cairn of stones and a marker. And from up there, I'll be able to get a great view, perspective. And look, what a surprise. There are the wild ponies. I won't get too close to them, don't want to spook them. But what a joy to actually see them up here, because I don't always see them. It's only been once or twice. That feels like a gift. So again, as I'm dishing out metaphors here, let me ask you, what gift do you desire, but you've given up hope on? What would you ask of God? If he were to say to you this week, what is it that you ask of me? What would you tell him? If Jesus were in front of you, asking that very question, what is it that you deeply desire? At the top here, the wind is stronger. Thankfully, it's not a terribly windy day. Yesterday, the winds were blowing about 30 miles an hour. Today, it's calmed down, but at the top of the hill, I do feel the wind. And you can't control the wind. You know, just thinking about the ascent, we think about how kings typically ascend to their thrones and how Christ ascended on Holy Week, not to a throne, but to a cross, to two rough pieces of wood that were put together that he had to himself bear before he was nailed to them. The book of Philippians in the New Testament says that Christ, Jesus, humbled himself, becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. You see in that strength restrained, it's power surrendered, it's obedience in love. And this isn't weakness, this is true strength. This was a strength that the disciples and the world and the authorities and the Romans didn't understand. This is the strongest thing that has ever happened in the history of the world. So, think about the weight that you have carried. I'm thinking about the stone in my rucksack. What is it? Are you willing to lay it down this week? Are you willing to lay it down at the feet of one who is stronger than we know? Are you willing to let him carry it? I thought that maybe I would carry my stone back down and to put it into that wall, but I've decided I would rather actually take it out here and leave it with the other stones that are a marker at the top of this hill. So I'm thinking about this stone and what it represents. And I'm asking a real question. Do I really believe that the King of the universe can carry my weight? I mean, if he's the king, if he's created all of this, of course he can carry it. But I guess the bigger question is will I let him carry it? So inside of me, I'm naming the weight. If you've got your stone, maybe take it out. Name it. What is the weight? Will you let him carry it? I'm leaving mine right here. There's one more thing that I want to do here at the top of the hill before I begin my descent, before I eat my lunch, is to give you a view off the backside of the hill. Now, I mentioned when I first talked about Traprain Law is that it is a hill steeped in mystery and history. And as you see, the backside of the law is quite steep. Careful as I walk. There are sheer drops off the back down to the fields below. So legend has it that in the 6th century AD, there was a chieftain who ruled from the top of this hill called Loth. In fact, the counties that around Edinburgh are called the Lothians, so they were named after him. And Loth, this warlord, had a daughter named Thinyu, interesting name, but she got pregnant by a local shepherd. And to Loth, this was an insult to his dignity as chieftain and as king. And so he commanded that his daughter be killed. So while she was quite pregnant, he took her to this edge that I just showed you, and he had her pushed off of Traprain Law. Now, miraculously, Thinyu did not die, and this enraged her father even more. So he had her taken and put on a very small circular boat called a coracle and put out onto the water to the Firth of Forth, which is just on the other side of this hill. Now, instead of the winds carrying her out to the North Sea where she would surely die, the winds actually blew uncharacteristically from the east, pushed her up the Firth of Forth to a small settlement on the other side of the Firth. And there she was actually found by a man named Cerf, who was a monk who had established a monastic Christian community in the 6th century. Saint Cerf, as he was later known, took in Thinyu, and she gave birth to her son, miraculously, who she called Kentigern. Kentigern was also known as Mungo, and Mungo was the founder of Glasgow, one of Scotland's greatest saints. So I take from that, from this hill where great tragedy happened, came life and beauty. Miraculously, even though it was a place of death, it brought about life to many, many people. It founded Scotland's greatest and largest city. And Kentigern, or Mungo's work, was to go among the people and to spread the message of Jesus, who also ascended a hill, who faced death there, and then who conquered it by rising again. I encourage you to take a snack with you as you go on your walk this week. I'm hungry right now. I'm going to have my lunch, but I'm reminded that when we think about Jesus, it's so easy to kind of put him up into this lofty stratosphere of a divine being, and we forget that he was and is still a human being, and that he actually had to feel the exact same things that we do. So he got hungry. He got thirsty, he got tired. The blood that he bled on Friday as he was crucified was real blood. It wasn't metaphorical. But also, he cared for people, and he cared for their real needs. He didn't just see them as, hey, we would just want to tick this box to get you saved or to become a Christian. That wasn't the way he operated. He actually saw the people, and he cared deeply about them. And he met their physical needs as well as their spiritual needs. So I love that about Jesus. And so as I have my lunch burrito here on the top of Traprain Law, I'm going to remember that about Jesus, is that he cares about me. He cares about me as a human. He cares about the things that I feel, the things that I experience, because he's felt them and experienced them too. I'm descending Traprain Law now, and we'll try to pay attention to my footsteps and not the camera too much. But just thinking about the descent of Jesus from the cross. Jesus was taken down. He was laid in a borrowed tomb. His body was cared for, but he was dead. And again, what must it have felt like for those disciples who had followed him, to know that their master had been on the most shameful instrument of torture and death that they could imagine, and now was lying wrapped in a linen cloth in a tomb. I just can imagine that their own descent into darkness, into grief, and to despair must have been great. Most of our lives are lived in that in-between space, like Saturday for the disciples. We don't know what's coming. We can't see what's at the summit. We have whispers of hope and of resurrection, but nothing is sure. So we live in that liminal space, the space in between, the place that lies between hope and despair. And that's what most of human life is like. Faith isn't pretending that every day is like Sunday. Faith is actually living through Friday and Saturday with great hope, but also recognizing that there's a lot of pain too. This Holy Week, we want to encourage you, take a walk. Do it slowly. Holy Week isn't consumed, it's walked. Take a stone uphill, lay it down somewhere. And as you move towards Easter Sunday, think of the weight that you carry. And then think of the one who lived and died so that he could carry you.